cults. The beliefs of a few charismatic that lead us into the dark depths of depravity. Extreme religious groups with bizarre interpretations of scripture, science, or philosophy. Beliefs usually surrounding around one person or figure. People like Shoko Ashara, Jim Jones, David Koresh, creating undying fellowships that rival insanity and to the macabre. But there is one that I want to add to this list of unsettling groups. One including this mouse. We're talking about the Rescue Rangers cult today. Like most stories on the internet, this story starts with an anthropomorphic animal.
What's wrong with it?
No!
What?
In the mid to late 1980s, there was a show called Rescue Rangers, and it starred notable Disney mainstays Chip and Dale. One character amongst the cast was a small mouse named Gadget Hackenwrench. From the sounds of this upcoming group's beliefs, the introduction of this character was definitely an awakening of sorts. Now, I don't kink shame, nor do I judge. As I always say, goon ethically. Love what you love as long as you harm no one. But sometimes things get so interesting, I gotta tell people the lore about something. When I was told about this cult by one of my Patreon members, and I just had to sit down and look into it. However, unlike Sonic Passion, there really wasn't that much info on this. This group is fairly kind of low-key. There's only a handful of articles, some wikis, and some websites in Russian here and there. But because of that, I may get a couple things wrong. My Russian, as you could say, is a little bit rusty, as pretty much the entirety of my Russian knowledge comes from playing Metal Gear Solid 3 on the PlayStation 2. So a lot of this is going to be very obscure, niche subculture shenanigans, which is what I'm told the website Rule 34 was made for. You know, if it exists, there is lore of it. That's what it means, right? Right? The show itself ran from 1989 to 1990 and lasted 3-ish seasons. Season 3 being only 5 episodes long, but despite only being 3 seasons, actually saw some moderate success here in the States. However, it apparently was huge in Russia. So huge in fact, a group of gentlemen came together to form a religion around this spunky inventor Gadget, calling it Gaykoslavie, or Gadgetology for us English-speaking folks. The cult itself formed around 2009 and really rose to prominence throughout various boards and forums of Russian fans for the show, kind of closer to 2010. These people showed their love of the show, but were all grief-stricken by their inability not to be able to communicate with the mousy mechanic. Kind of like how I constantly beg for Miku to notice me.
Please, Miku! Just grab my hand! I'm gonna...
After some time of brewing on their forums, these group of future Reddit mods decided to announce that the idol had ascended to godhood, because if Gadget was a god, she would be omnipresent, and thus able to hear their prayers. I mean, I see zero flaws in this logic. And thus, the cult of the Radiant Gadget was born. Believed to have originated in... oh god, I'm gonna butcher this. Nizhny Novgorod... whatever, it's on the screen. The movement grew in droves, with new members added almost on the daily. The followers were mostly referred to as adepts, and these adepts would go and work towards the goals of bringing the rebirth of their beloved Gadget back into this world with the power of unconditional love and faith. Side note, some people apparently did think that she was already reborn in a parallel dimension, so they're working on either matching that level of faith in the parallel worlds or find a way to bring her here, a la merger, sort of like Chris Chan. Oh god, again?
It's happening now. We're on the very last thread.
It's happening right
Why are you yelling?
We're living it. The Dimension Merge, baby. If Batman is your hero, you're gonna meet him very soon.
these members, while quirky, were very well organized. The most organized of the groups was a group based out of Moscow going by the name of Konorama. Konorama, also known as the Moscow Order of Gadget. The members of Konorama would then communicate in online forums, messengers, in groups, and would even gather in public places IRL to celebrate the Gadget Lightbringer's birthday. You know, basically the way anyone else does. While Christians have trees and eggnog to celebrate Christmas and the birth of Christ, meanwhile, gadgetologists, they get together, they write songs, read stories, marching in the dark of night with torches, performing rituals, and dancing. That's totally normal. Now I get loving an IP so much that you worship it. I mean, I did a whole ass video on Sonic Passion. So to me, this is kind of becoming the norm. In several interviews with the members, they would say things like, "She is the divine being, the most untouched and perfect sibling of the great God on earth." When an adept was asked why he loved her, he replied, "Why I love her? That's a stupid question. How can't I love the goddess?" And another replied with, "She is strict, cute, optimistic, and her level of technical knowledge is unachievable for a mortal being." Huh. It's actually kind of sane reasons. Kind of want to join myself. See, now that I kind of want to join, I gotta figure out which version of Gadgetology do I fit into. Now, yeah, there's actually multiple versions. There's 3 main ones. There is traditional Gadgetology, which by definition is they're rooted in the religion of basically prayer and righteous acts, where basically they just spread the word. Kind of like a Jehovah's Witness, but less annoying and with, you know, a lot more tact and probably more respect.
Grace, come in!
What?
I'd love to hear about Jesus. What's he up to now? Come on in, come on!
The second one would be the progressive Gadgetology, where they kind of live their life based on the teachings that they learned from Gadget and her show. Kind of basically just taking whatever they learned from there and applying it to everyday life. At least that's kind of what I'm hoping for, because the main version of it states something in regards to self-improvement and real-world action, and adheres aim to live closer to the lifestyle portrayed in the TV show, because my fat ass is not fitting into any kind of oak tree. And the third one, it's the apocalyptic Gadgetology. This one is more about the end times, so it's closer to like Doomsday Preppers and the Book of Revelations based in Christianity, kind of like with the good versus evil, except Gadget is going to return to this dimension and give us all the light, as she is called the Lightbringer, and do battle with evil. As previously stated, the Konorama were one of the more organized of the groups. They even went as far as making textbooks called The Sacred Nut. I wish I made that up, because it feels silly and it honestly sounds like a 4th grader made it up. But the Sacred Nut was actually the basis of theology for their religion. It would explain that their religion is more fundamentally a dualist system, which basically means like good and evil, and them opposing each other. The good, of course, being her radiance herself, Gadget, the goddess, and evil is a relatively unknown entity called what is being translated as the Fat Cat, but it's really not that clear. Now, Gadget obviously taking a lot from the Christian God, as she's labeled as the creator, and mostly as a sign of good and holiness. Meanwhile, Fat Cat is kind of a satanic figure, more like along the lines of like the more silly cliche black and white style, where he basically just exists to destroy all that's good. In order to bring people over to the side of good, she would incarnate into our world to be shown as the being on the Rescue Rangers show. Her powers apparently rely on the love given to her, and without this, spiritually, she could die. And for those who do follow her and give her the love and attention, they would be rewarded and be able to ascend to Gadgetice. Get it? Instead of paradise. But for those who don't, the sinners in all of this, they would all be sent to Fat Cat Hell. That's what they call it. I'm just reporting the lore. The world of Gadget, according to an article by Medium, was said that the world is a mystery, but admirers believe that it resembles ours. The only difference is that there are higher beings that dwell there. The fans believe that it was Gadget who created our universe. Much like previously stated, it only exists because of the Lightbringer, Gadget, and without her, nothing makes sense. The essence of the teachings on fanatic humility is the teaching that the character and the goddess are different personalities and they should be separated. The first is a product of consumption, entertainment, and no more, while the second is above these criterias. Adherents should understand that Gadget does not belong to just anyone, but on the contrary, owns her flock and loves everyone alike. Seeing a lot of similarities here to Christianity as the whole flock and kind of like the shepherd and the lamb things. Now, the cult has its own website, however, it is in Russian, and my firewall screamed at me at the top of its lungs when I tried to go there, so I'm just taking some of this based on word of mouth and reports from people and screenshots. From accounts told, one of the mods of said site would actually give lectures on Gadgetology. There were even plans to build a brick and mortar church, which was meant to look like a hexagonal pole in the form of a nut up to 20 meters high, but finances of the group were not able to see this plan to completion. From all signs, it appears that this religion started mostly as a joke and ended up evolving into something more. Something people could relate to, love, and grow into. As far as cults go, we have seen horrendous things. Things like Heaven's Gate, Jonestown, the Anthill Kids, and even in more modern times, groups like the Nexium. All groups shrouded in death, violence, and corruption. But Gadgetology, while starting as a joke, seems to have amassed a followings at equal cult level like following. Mostly amassing people who are actually looking towards like a more pure and straightforward group. Something that has a deeper meaning of good versus evil, and one that mostly, albeit cringe, seems to really push towards a more positive way of living. And if all cults could be like this, honestly, I think the world would be a lot better place. Love what you love, as long as you hurt no one. Definitely a cult I can get behind. Hey everyone. Thank you for watching, especially if you made it to the end. I'd like to thank the beautiful patrons you see scrolling on the screen here. I'd like to thank Jen, Dane, Royal YGO, Gooseball, Floating Somewhere in the Ether, DK Domo, Panda Snoots, Meow Bubbles, Robo Sketchy, Olivia Oblivion, Brittany, Little Miss Magic Hair, and Sebi Webby. If you give me a like, it really helps in the algorithm, and make sure to follow me on social media. If something were ever to happen to this channel, it's the only way you'd know what was up. I thought we would close out 2024 with one last video, as it's been a hell of a year, and I'd also like to just thank you guys for taking that journey with me. Anyway, thank you all for coming and listening to my tale about one of the silliest cults around. But, thank you, and as always, I'm the Lorelock. Cheers.